Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is part two of my Zack Snyder issues with Zack Snyder and stuff rant here. Still focused on Superman because I will get to the thing, but I think I should probably get to the Batman part. But the only Superman thing I will mention is the fact of how they adapted certain stories. For me, it was really dumb for them to do, for example, in my opinion, for them to do Death of Superman so early. That was really stupid. That was just really dumb. I don't know why you would use that storyline to do that. That's just baffling to me. Um, it's a second film. Like we don't even know Superman that well, and then you already kill him off. And don't get me started on like already the emotional stuntiness of this Superman, because he doesn't have his supporting characters. Has Nolan has Batman has that at least Batman had in a Nolan series. At least Batman had other characters beside himself, right? That were a focus, like Gordon and all these other characters. But with Superman, like, it's just Lois and his mom, and nothing about Jimmy. Nothing about the other characters that we know that he has, like Lana or Pete Ross. It's just odd. Like they basically just took Superman's mythos and said we don't need those characters. It's just stupid. And it's interesting because they didn't make that mistake with Batman with Gordon and all that, because that relationship is pivotal and important. But at least we got Alfred and we got Lucius. You know what I mean? We had other supporting characters. While in the Superman movie, it's like, nah, we don't need Lana Lang and Pete Ross. I mean, okay, but again, it explains perfectly this Superman's bizarre behavior. You know what I mean? Like, you can do a story about an outcast person and he can still end up having friends at the end of the day. Like, you could still have him have close relationships with Pete and Lana. That puzzles me. You could still do that, but Zack Snyder is, I don't know. Maybe he stunted himself. He can't really do that. So, I'm not trying to be mean here. It's just what I see with his writing. Um, and Goyer's writing. I'm coming to Goyer in a second because I think he's also part of this bullshit. Because again, the reason why I say that is because DC and Warner Brothers, they were relying so much on those guys to build their cinematic universe, and it was a huge mistake. It was a massive mistake. And I feel sorry for the actors, particularly Ben Affleck, who I personally think he would have been a great Batman, to be honest. I definitely see Ben Affleck being a Batman. Hopefully they retcon this shit and he can actually be that Batman. But I could definitely see, Ben Affleck's Batman introducing a character like Damian Wayne and seeing the interactions with that, and seeing his interactions with Talia, and Catwoman, at that point of age in his life. Like, I could see that with those characters, right? But instead we got us aping The Dark Knight Returns. For what reason? I have no fucking clue. Um, and this is a Batman who's been Batman for 20 years. I mean, I can go on. I mean, I might as well just transition to that point. But to finish my point on Superman, the idea of doing the death of Superman and do that, it's just weird. It's just bizarre to do that plot line. And I know why they did it. They did the plot line to ham the stupid Jesus metaphor. So what am I gonna say? It's literally the stupid Jesus metaphor, and the whole Superman being depressed and being like, oh no, you know, looking kind of acting very suspect. I mean, it's just him looking all depressed at the people dead, and the thing being like, man, everyone's dead. And then Superman's, hallucinating his dad who's not even there. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So it's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous in my honest view. And this is not coming from someone. You see, I'm not gonna play this game with some Snyder fans where they say like, oh, you just don't like Superman that's happy-go-lucky, blah blah blah. I actually think you can do Superman with edge. The Justice League cartoon did that, and yet Superman was still able to be Superman. I mean, have y'all watched the Justice League show? Superman was kind of like, I ain't playing no games with people type character. in that show, in the animated series. Yet, guys who we pay hundreds of millions of dollars to direct movies, for some reason, couldn't do that. They had to make him this weird, almost borderline creepy, like, just, I mean, almost like basically sounding an objectivist. Kind of like a weird, emotionally stunted guy who has all these godlike powers, and it's like, well, I'm a god, and I don't. And that's why I always make the comparison that they basically try to turn Superman into Dr. Manhattan. So it's weird, okay? And this is why I hate when writers do this with Superman. Stop trying to look at his powers and be googly-eyed. That's not the point of Superman. His morality and his character, his relationships with other people, that's what matters. Amazing feats of actions are cool, yes. But those emotional beats are important. Not just him with powers doing stuff and being all, I am a god. I am a god. I mean, that's literally what it is. You can literally have that ringing throughout the entire Snyder Superman stuff. I am a godlike being. I am a godlike being. This is hard. This is hard. I mean, that's basically what it is. And it's just ridiculous. So, and then having Doomsday show up, looks like a cave troll, but having Doomsday show up in the films. Oh man. Jesus Christ. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Doomsday. As a Superman fan, I know that's sacrilege, but I'm not the biggest fan of him as a villain. I think he's a way too overhyped Superman villain, just because, oh, well, he killed him, so there's nothing really special about him. Because writers really haven't done anything with Doomsday since then, compared to like a character like Bane, who writers at least were able to do more stuff with him. And this is me basically being petty, just saying, like, I feel like a character that seems much more palatable to be like the Bane equivalent to Superman, in my opinion, would have been Mongol, because of stories like For the Man Who Has Everything, because he sort of broke Superman emotionally. So one of the first villains to do that than any other Superman rogues gallery. Yet, we kind of just treat Mongol like a sideline villain, and it's like, oh yeah, Doomsday's the greatest thing because he killed Superman. No. So for me, them using Doomsday, I was already like kind of a little cringe. I'm like, well, first off, if you used them like towards the end of the trilogy, I would have been annoyed. But at least I would have been like, cool. At least they saved them up for the last movie. If you're that desperate to kill off Superman. But the attempt at killing him off, it's nothing but a stupid attempt to ham a Jesus metaphor, and I don't give a fuck about it. That's what it is at the end of the day. It's a metaphor to hand over. And also, plus, adapting The Dark Knight Returns and everything else, it's just dumb. So, there was poor decisions in terms of what they wanted to adapt. Their decision-making for adapting stories was absurd and ridiculous. The design of the artists who did the design work, and the people who worked on the film, I'm not blaming those people. I'm blaming on the writers and the directors, not the people who came up with the art, who came up with the designs. They worked their asses off, probably paid vaguely pretty low wages. So I'm not paid that much. So working heavy hours making this movie for like the past 2 years. So I'm not going to attack those characters. I'm not going to attack those people. Okay? I'm attacking more so the direction of where they went with it. Of the character, of the writers who came up with this bullshit. So we got that out of the way. But in terms of adaptation, this is the issue. This will segue to my Batman point. Snyder's Batman. The issue that I have primarily with adaptation in comic book movies is not that it's not word for word the adaptation. It's when the source material is there before the movies, okay? Just let's get that out of the way. But when you are adapting the source material, and this is the key point, you can do changes and it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with doing changes. But the changes have to make sense and you have to present them good, okay? so that I, as someone who is a regular audience goer, can be like, okay, that's cool, but also has someone who maybe knows the material, sees that, I'll be like, awesome, because that's a good change also. You know what I mean? Because I know it's regular people, but it's good to have that change. There's nothing wrong with that. A case in point is the Sam Raimi films. The Sam Raimi films borrowed a good portion of basically 60s Spider-Man stuff from Steve Ditko. A lot of the storyline of the Sam Raimi films from 1 and 2, I'm not talking about 3, but Spider-Man 1 and 2 and maybe what would have been 3 in terms of like its script draft, is taking a lot from Spider-Man Steve Ditko era. That's the key. I think that's the biggest difference in terms of Spider-Man there. And it worked. And Sam Raimi, he said before, he read the source material before he directed Spider-Man, which is good. Thank goodness he actually sat down and read the source material. Because the thing is, Henry Cavill, he read the source material. Jeff Johns read the source material. Even though he's a piece of shit to Ray Fisher, I'm not going to talk about that. That's a whole nother conversation. And how Ray Fisher was treated. But we had all that happen. But I highly doubt Zack Snyder and the other writers actually read it. Because they're the ones that you would think would read the source material, but they didn't. Instead, the actors read the source material. What? That doesn't make sense. So, I mean, it's good. It's good for actors to read the source material, but if the director's not reading the source material, what the fuck? And what are we doing? So, in essence, that was the problem. But I'm pretty sure Zack Snyder probably thought, oh, I can actually do, take popular stories like the Death and Return of Superman and adapt that in some bullshit capacity. And, like, we only had Superman for one movie, and this guy's telling us, as the audience, to care about this version of Superman dying overly big CGI fight against freaking Doomsday. Okay. It's dumb writing. It's stupid. From my point, I just think it's dumb because I think it's an attempt to ham the Jesus metaphor in our face, but okay. So, segues to the point about Snyder's Batman. Didn't know I was going to get to that part. Now, I already have issues with Snyder's Batman for a plethora of reasons. Again, him operating in Gotham for 20 years, that's not an issue for me. Basically, yeah, he's an older Batman, but he's not that old. That was my issue. He's sort of Batman at his pinnacle, to be honest with you. This is Batman at his pinnacle. I mean, I would argue like Arkham Batman and Ben Affleck's Batman are probably a couple ages apart. Affleck's Batman being maybe like 45 and the Arkham Batman being probably like 41, right? Just a couple years off. Probably early 40s. But those characters aren't far off from each other. You see what I mean? So it's not really old Batman. So even then, they kind of just fucked up how they were going to do Batman in DCEU in a sense, in terms of the concept. Because it's like, it's fine. Ben Affleck would have been perfect. He's Batman in his prime, Batman in his pinnacle. Makes sense. He'll be in his 40s, right? Because that's usually the age that's Batman peak before he starts getting old. Dark Knight Returns, Batman's in his 50s. Like at least like mid 50s, almost like going on late 50s. Like we're talking about 55, right? So they didn't even get the age right. So that's another thing. A Batman who operated 20 years in Gotham, and then Zack Snyder basically says, yeah, my Batman kills. Okay, this is another big issue. I know people are going to talk about, well, Batman doesn't kill. Yeah, he doesn't. But this is my biggest issue. He's operating on the Gotham for 20 years. It's only now he started killing or not giving a crap about people. Okay? Now, I would have been fine with the premise of Batman killing, or he started killing after the events of Man of Steel. He started getting a little bit much more brutal. You know what would have helped Batman in this case? This goes to my point. And this is why I said maybe this is why you need more writers who are of a diverse background to be in the room to help you write this stuff. Because I feel like these scripts were just written by a bunch of white guys brainstorming. I don't think a single person of color was there to brainstorm these films. So, or a person of color comic book fan or anything were there to basically do anything. What would have been smart, script-wise, would have been, okay, this Batman's Batman for 20 years. This is a different Batman from Nolan's. Okay. Superman exists. Okay. You know what? Since Superman is real and Wonder Woman is real in this universe, why don't we just bring in the Robin? And then they hinted at the Robin, and then Zack Snyder fucked it up by saying, well, the Robin that died is Dick Grayson. Okay. Talk about not even adapting the Dark Knight Returns right. You killed off the wrong Robin. Sorry. That's just a fact. You killed him off. You killed the wrong Robin. The Robin that should be dead is Jason, not Dick Grayson. And then Zack Snyder wanted to do Carrie Kelly. That's what I'm telling you. He wanted to ham the Dark Knight Returns. Which I personally don't care for Carrie Kelly as a character. I mean, she's a decent character, but I don't care for her that much. She's not Stephanie Brown. She's not Cassandra Cain. She's not those characters. She's not as popular or have a fan base like those characters do. So no one cares about Carrie Kelly. Like nobody really does. So the fact that he's gonna do Carrie Kelly, it shows Zack Snyder's boner for the Dark Knight Returns. Another thing that really pisses me off is the fact that, again, in live action, we're going to have a Batman movie where he's just by himself. For some reason. You know, I've been operating in Gotham for 20 years. So you only had one Robin. You only had one partner who was Robin. No Batgirl. Probably no Tim Drake either. Which leads to my biggest rant when it comes to Batman. Because you know what? There's this pattern of Batman where when every time they want to adapt him, they don't want to include the Robins in there. And maybe it's because they're ashamed of Robin because of the Schumacher films, maybe. But it's starting to get to the point where it's like, guys, that was like almost, we're talking about something that's almost 20 to almost 30 years ago, guys. Like, get over yourselves. But that's my little point on the point about Zack Snyder's Batman. What would have helped the script better is if, I don't know, you may have had Barbara in the movie, besides just Alfred. Maybe this is where you have a good writer who understands the source material and how to actually do something new. A new writer, a good writer, would have been like, hey, you know what? Let's make Batman start not caring about life because he became disillusioned after the events of, you know, characters like Superman appearing, even though he's fought metahumans before in his past, but nothing as big as, like, you know, seeing like the gravitas of someone like a Superman being real, right? And, you know, Dick Grayson, he's Nightwing out there. Dick Grayson's in Bloodhaven. Tim Drake probably went with Barbara to do their own thing because they became distant. And make that a point in the movie. Jeremy Irons is Alfred, who I think he did a good job, talking to Bruce and saying, hey, Bruce, you pushed a whole bunch of people away because you don't care. And Bruce presents that cynicism of, we're always criminals, blah, 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 blah. That would have worked because you would have known there was a Bat family out there and that they abandoned Bruce because Bruce was losing his way with what he was doing. And this was like 2 years ago after Bruce Wayne was affected by it. And personally, I would have had Oracle in the movie. That would have definitely helped in terms of like the Batman trimmage, because it would have been not just Alfred. You would have had Oracle talking to Bruce, telling, along with Alfred, telling like, man, Superman is not the bad guy here. Like, you're being manipulated. Superman is not the bad person here, Bruce. All right. And Bruce, being the stubborn, idiot that he can be, he doesn't listen to that. That would have helped the plot if you actually had the Bat family in this film. Not as characters. They don't have to be this is the thing. You don't have to have them in costume. You could have had them have their identities as Tim, as Barbara, or Dick Grayson. Personally, I would have used Dick and Barbara, to be honest. Those two. Tim, you could have a storyline where Tim is like, I don't even want to talk to Bruce because Tim in the comics looks most up to Bruce Wayne and is most like him, has the Robin. That's why he's considered like he would be maybe the perfect Batman if he was Batman, right? He'll be the most like Bruce Wayne as Batman. And he's the most detective-like of the Robin. So the thing is, have it where Tim is like, you know what, Bruce, I didn't want to talk to you because I used to look up to you. And Tim Drake in the comics, that's usually how it is. He looked up to Bruce Wayne or looked up to Batman as that persona. And basically, he betrayed his ideals after the 2 years after the Black Zero event with Man of Steel. And, it makes sense if you're writing a good story. That's what you would have done. Well, some people say, oh, it would have been too many characters. I'm not saying you should have the whole Bat family in it. Just Barbara or Dick Grayson telling Bruce, bro, you lost your way, man. You lost your way. Right? That would have helped in the film, in my honest opinion. Judging from just watching, I'm just like, why are we doing Batman by himself again? I mean, this is weird. Especially the time frame of this Batman who's been operating in Gotham for like 20 years. It's just weird. It's kind of like, if this was Batman, like, I don't know, year one, okay. But you're telling me this guy was Batman year one for the entire, like, 20 years? I hate when writers fucking do that with Batman sometimes. Like, they always try to have their cake and eat it too. Be like, well, Batman is old, and he's older, but there's no Robin. Okay. And yet they're trying to tell, like, a year one, like, early Batman. It's like, no, dude, no. Stop it. Just admit that you don't like the Robins and you don't want to include them in there. That's why. And I think that's another issue that I have is the lack of inclusion of the Robins. But I'll get into that in a second in the Nolan film. But I'm not gonna get into that. You know what? I'm not gonna get into that. I'm not, because I don't blame that on Nolan, because Nolan had a story to tell, and when it got to the Dark Knight Rises, that's when it got stupid and ridiculous. But that's a whole nother conversation. But the first two movies, Begins and The Dark Knight, you can say those were origin Batman movies. Of course, Dick Grayson wasn't going to show up. That's fine. I'm cool with that. The Dark Knight Rises, though, that's when the whole logic of the universe that Nolan has created just completely, in my opinion, just self-implodes, writing-wise. So, in essence, the Batman killing and branding people, that's just dumb. I saw that. I was like, okay, that's just really stupid. I don't know why he's doing this. The whole using the line, of course he's using the Frank Miller line with the, we're criminals, Alfred. We've always been doing this. It's like, I mean, I hear these lines and it just rings hollow to me, because I just like, I read Dark Knight Returns, dude. Cool. I get it. Whatever. I'm just rolling my eyes. I just don't care. You know what I mean? And Jeremy Irons, these are great actors. It's a shame for me. Like, these great castings just wasted on a dumbass plot. And it's but yeah, um the Batcave looked cool. I love the Batcave in this movie. Zack Snyder did an incredible Batcave. Again, the concept people, I wouldn't say he did it. I'll say mostly it was the concept people. But those people, they did a good job in terms of presenting what Batman was. But the way Batman was in spirit of character, nah. That was not Batman. That was somebody else. Um, then the whole "Oh, my hope is renewed." And that weird messaging. Yes, it's just I don't know. But yeah, his framework of the Batman universe is just weird to me. I just don't understand his take on the Batverse. It's just really bizarre. Um, and some of the decision making in terms of the plot was just like it's just we're already in the Batman universe. We're showing Batman in his mythos. So you have two big character mythoses with Superman and Batman, who both have a massive mythos equal in size, showing up in a film, and you just decide we're gonna write off certain supporting characters that are important to them. Like this is where I think like you need Jimmy Olsen, you need Cat Grant, you need those characters, and then have it balanced out. Or you could have had Jimmy, you could have had Lana Lang, those characters,